Now we're going to talk about copyrights. As you recall, a patent is a grant by the government of a protection, an exclusive use to something that you invent, an invention. But a copyright is a government protection for an artistic expression of some form, and you can copyright any form of artistic expression that is in a stable medium. So when we think about copyrights, we usually think about writings, books, or music, or maybe movies. But actually, here's an interesting partial list of the kinds of things that can be copyrighted. Any form of artistic expression that's in a stable medium. So not only books and music, but dramatic works, pantomimes, choreographs, photographs, graphics, sculptural works, motion pictures, sound recordings, and architectural works can also be copyrighted. So anything that's in a stable medium. So what's a stable medium? So what is an example of a stable medium? Well, the best example that I've seen is every few years there's a church up in Grass Valley that invites a group of Buddhist monks, I believe they're from Nepal, to come and visit. And these monks come and visit Grass Valley and exchange cultural ideas. But while they're here, they usually do a large sand mandala. And the sand mandala is an amazing thing. They'll have a big square area on the ground or on a table, and with painstaking care, hours and hours of careful work, they let colored sand fall down through their hand, and they make a beautiful, complex sand painting or sand design. Very complicated design and beautiful colors. It's an amazing thing to see, but it's all sand done by hand. It takes hours and hours and hours to do. But one of the spiritual aspects of it that I don't fully understand is when the wind comes up, even after all these hours of making this beautiful thing out of colored sand, the wind comes up and it's gone. So if you wanted to copyright that sand mandala, you probably could not copyright it because it's not a stable medium. The wind comes and it's gone. But if you took a photograph of the same sand mandala, the photograph probably could be copyrighted because the photograph won't blow away in the wind. It's a stable medium. So that's an example of a stable medium. Now, if you want to copyright something, you register it with the U.S. Copyright Office, and then you can put the little word copyright or the little circular symbol with the C in the center on the item if you want to notify the world it's copyrighted. But there's not a legal requirement that you do that. You can have a copyright even if you fail to put the word copyright on it or the little circular C. Some things cannot be copyrighted. Mathematical equations, 2 + 2 = 4, you can't copyright that. You can't copyright an idea like gravity, you can't copyright that. But generally speaking, any other form of artistic expression in a stable medium can be copyrighted. Now, here's another interesting question for you about copyright. The chances are, since you started college, or maybe even when you were in high school, you wrote some papers, some scholarly papers or research papers. And in those papers, you quoted some material from somebody's book or magazine article or research journal. You quoted someone else's writing, and hopefully you gave them credit. You put in a footnote saying where that came from, so it wasn't just plagiarism. But even though you gave them a credit with a footnote, the material that you wrote down and you put in the paper was copyrighted material. How come you didn't get sued for copyright violation when you wrote that down in the paper? You copied a piece of somebody's book that's copyrighted. Never thought about that, did you? Well, don't worry about it, because in the copyright law, there is a legal concept called the fair use exception. And if you are writing a scholarly paper or something for school, research, that kind of thing, the law allows you to copy a certain amount of another person's material without being in violation of copyright law. It's called the fair use exception, and it's okay for you to do that. Preferably you do it giving credit, so it's not plagiarism, but that's the fair use exception to the copyright law. Now, the one other really interesting thing about copyright law is how profoundly our culture and our cultural relationship with copyright law has changed and changed as our technology developed in the last few years. Because, historically, if you copy someone else's music or you copy a movie without paying for it, that was a form of piracy, copyright violation, and you could be prosecuted or sued for that civilly. But then everybody in the world started copying music and pirated movies off the internet, and it used to terrify me. I would take a poll in class, how many of you have copied music off the internet without paying for it? And it would be almost every single person in the class. And then I would have to inform them that, there's case law that says if you copy even 2 seconds worth of someone else's song and you don't pay them a royalty for that, that is the Bridgeport music case, you're in copyright violation. And even if you just download the song onto your RAM and you never play it, you're in copyright violation. And also, even if you're only going to use it for yourself, you're not going to sell it to anyone else, you're doing it for what's called altruistic purposes, you're just copying it to play for yourself, that's a copyright violation. And so everybody was routinely violating the copyright laws, and you could talk to students until you were blue in the face and they wouldn't buy it. They would say, can't possibly be that it's violating copyright law for me to copy free music off the internet because everyone's doing it and no one's getting sued over it, so it must be legal. Well, it wasn't. Until just a year or two ago, I had to have that conversation with every class, and now even that has become somewhat obsolete in terms of a discussion because of the change in the technology again. This last semester, I started to talk to all the students about how many of them basically rip off free music or movies off the internet, and almost nobody in the class did that. And I said, wait, what's happened? And they said, well, we all belong to some music service now where we pay $5 a month and we can download all the music we want for $5 a month, so why would we pirate stuff? So the culture and the technology changed again, and this old man wasn't paying attention. But fortunately, I get to go to class with some young people once in a while and get updated on what's changing in the culture.